Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to Lenora Pours, a pouring session. And today we have an awesome guest, Markell Baldwin, who is a staff engineer. We're so excited to have him on this evening. And I just want to let you guys know that intro. The music that you heard is from our CD, which is my sister and I. Our is my sister and I, not Markell and I. We have a CD, One Love. So that was the instrumental to One Love. So if you have an interest in purchasing that album, just head on over to my website, www.lenoralassiter.com, and click that purchase button. So again, we're excited to have Markell here. Thank you so much, Markell, for joining us.
No, thank you so much for having me. I just wrote down that song because first off, I was vibing to it for the last few minutes. I really love the
Okay.
instrumental. I make music. You didn't know that, but I was very
Wow.
in tune with it. So that is awesome. I'm
Wow.
excited to
Thank
check that
you.
out.
Thank you. Awesome. Awesome. And the lyrics
Yeah.
are original, which are
Yes.
written by my sister, Sherry Dawson Williams. She is tuned in today. But I just want to acknowledge a few people before we get started with our conversation. Brianna is on and she says, "Good evening. I'm excited about this pouring session. We are excited too." And my sister, of course, she's so supportive. Please tag and share. And we have Yvette Hayes. She says, "Good evening." And Jay Dwayne Garnett. I got to give a shout out to Jay. Jay is my graphic artist, one of my motivators, and he is the one who created my beautiful overlay for the pouring sessions, which is located at the bottom of the screen. So thank you so much, Jay, for tuning in. So let's get started, Markell, because I know that you have some great stuff to share with us. So just tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I am originally from Chicago, born and raised. Lived in the Midwest pretty much my entire life, and went to college studying electrical engineer at Purdue University.
Okay.
And glossing over the experiences there, I was somehow able to get a job, my dream job actually, at Tesla Motors in
Okay.
2014. And I started at Tesla as an associate engineer, where I then worked on a variety of projects from passive sensors to just overall product design, leading to a patent and leading to some other things where I ended up leading projects at Tesla. And I was there for the last 6 years. And I recently stepped away from my engineering duties at Tesla to build my own platform called Resonance. The idea of Resonance
Wow.
is creating pathways from education to employment for people of color, where I recognize that the fundamental issues that we have within that pipeline or within that pathway, I should say, from engineering and education is really just access. Access to insights and access to dope people who are actually in these positions. So very, very high level overview of a little bit about my background, what I've worked on and what I'm currently working on.
Okay. So what prompted you to gain interest to create your own platform?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. So this is kind of a reverse chronological. So
Uh-huh.
when I look at just the diversity in tech today, it's actually a little bit better than what it was when I started. And it's like a six
Okay.
year difference. But when I
Mm-hmm.
started going further back, again, 6 years ago, I don't think it's a long time. Some people do. But when I started, there were no other Black engineers within like my line of sight. I couldn't find anyone. And so I just
Okay.
didn't feel there was like sufficient representation and support systems for someone who looked like me. And
Okay.
that ended up creating a lot of negative, psychological elements, right, like imposter syndrome, or just like feeling like I don't belong. And so I
Okay.
thought, this isn't a problem that I only face. This is
Okay.
a wider problem, and I think
Okay.
that by me pursuing and solving this problem or working to solve this problem, it's not the solution for me. It's not to solve it for the employer and their benefit of having
Okay.
better numbers. My whole idea is, how do I make it so it's economically empowering for the communities that do not or may not have access? Because the amount of money, the amount of opportunity in tech is just so incredible. And it's like, yeah, sure, the diversity numbers are cool, but
Mm-hmm.
what it provides is so much more impactful, so much more meaningful. And so
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's like, how do I shift the solution statement to empowering the individual instead of like catering to a number? And so I felt like it was important for me as a Black engineer to pursue that and to try to solve that problem and contribute in solving that problem. Because it's kind of like, you know, one thing I love about Tesla is, you know,
Mm-hmm.
their mission statement is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy and transportation.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, within that mission statement, they never say it's our job, right? They say that that's what they're trying to push. That is the agenda. And so for me, it's creating pathways into tech for people of color. I'm not saying I'm the only one that can do it. I want more
Right.
people to do it because the more pathways there are, the more opportunities, the more people are able to get in that space.
Wow, wow. So, what were some of the barriers that you experienced while pursuing your career as an engineer?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna go further back into high school and going into college. So the
Oh,
first barrier,
absolutely.
it was a barrier every single step of the way. Let me first say that.
Okay.
Um, One of the earlier barriers was really just like in high school, I had an affinity towards physics. I had a really good understanding of math, but I didn't even know that engineering really existed in this way.
Hmm.
And so I had a physics teacher tell me, hey, you should be an engineer. And I was like, I don't know what that is. So no, I'm okay. She's like, no, you're too smart. You have to look into it. Go pursue it. And so she told me to look into it. And then I had a friend who was going to be an engineer, going to engineering school as well. And he was
Hmm.
like, hey, I'm applying to this school. You should apply too. And I just kind of copied off of him in applying to the school, which was Purdue. And I applied to
Wow.
another school, and that other school that I applied to was actually my number one choice. I won't say their name because I still kind of, I don't like, they're the antagonists of this story. And
Okay.
so when I applied to this other school, I basically missed the application deadline because I didn't have $30, right? At the time,
Mm.
I was living with my brother. So my brother pretty much raised me from 8 onward. And so I didn't have $30, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I mean, for a kid, you know, in my
Yeah,
circumstance, that is a lot of money. And so I didn't
absolutely.
have the money to apply to the school. And so I called him and I said, hey, I really want to go to this school, but I don't have $30. And the woman in the admissions office pulls up my application and she skims through it. And she's like, you know, looking through this application, you probably wouldn't have got in. It's okay. Don't worry about it. And that was really heartbreaking. It was a really good engineering school, and I just didn't understand why I wouldn't have gotten in. So I asked her why. She said, you know, your scores aren't that great. You don't have a lot of
Wow.
experience. I'm like, I'm 17, so I'm not sure what that even means.
Right.
But I was very lucky to have really you only need one person to say yes. So I got Purdue to
Hmm.
say yes, and some other schools as well. But Purdue was like, that's where I ended up going. And they had an awesome program, which I have to attribute 98% of my success to, because it
Okay.
was a program organized to help people of color get acclimated and understand the rigor of engineering school by trying to
Wow.
jam pack 16 weeks of learning into 5 weeks, meaning
Wow.
engineering school is going to be hard in the first place, but we're going to make it even harder. And so when you actually go through that 16-week process, it's actually not as bad as that 5 week boot camp, which is what they call it, academic boot camp. So really, it was like the transition into
Hmm.
every single stage. And that's just one example. Some other ones were, you know, I wasn't quote unquote professional, meaning, you know, I didn't dress the way that they expected or I didn't speak the
Mm.
way they expected. And so I had
Hmm.
to learn how to navigate in those spaces. And one thing I've
Hmm.
learned is there's professional and then there is having business etiquette, which I think
Mm.
sometimes get conflated. Whereas professionalism is really like this definition that I think derives from kind of the majority, I'll say, and they're trying to impose a certain, you know, standard. Whereas business
Mm.
etiquette refers to effective ways of communicating, effective strategies in which to approach people and have meaningful conversations. And so I transitioned from, okay, I don't need to wear a suit. I can wear a
Mm.
t-shirt, but I will still carry myself in a certain way to be, in this business etiquette. And so navigating that space was another one of the, like, my major hurdles. And then the last one I'll say is my network. That was a huge hurdle because I was, Purdue University is located in West Lafayette. I'm located really in the middle of cornfields. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the world am I going to get visibility to Tesla Motors, which is somewhere in Silicon Valley? I don't even know what that really means at the time. California. I don't know how they're ever going to discover me. I don't have any people that I know working there. I don't have any friends that know friends. Like, the connections just did not exist. And so I had no idea how I would even get to Tesla or any cool place like that, because they didn't come to my school. They came once, but the line was so long, I had no chance in seeing them. So the access to them didn't exist. And so I just got really lucky, where they discovered me on LinkedIn in late 2013, early 2014. And I was able to, my LinkedIn profile just appealed to them, and I was able to have conversations. But that network piece still, I would say, limited me and was another challenge, just because when I started working at Tesla, I still didn't have a network. And so now there's this expectation of, how do I flourish within this workplace? When I'm looking around, no one looks like me. I can't really say what's really going on to anybody around. And I just feel like, I'm drowning slowly and like quietly too. So it's really difficult. And so, like, that network piece has been so, I would say that was probably the biggest hurdle, because that persisted, before Tesla and while at Tesla. And that's, again, part of the platform that I want to create and build. And it's like providing that community that is there looking out for one another on that journey into tech.
Right. So you said a lot of good things, Markell. And one thing that I want to kind of mention again is you stated that your physics teacher encouraged you to pursue a path towards engineering. So talk about the importance of teachers and their influence with students, the power of words. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. I actually wrote an article a couple years ago called "The Power of Guides in Your Journey." And really, that article, I reflected back on really the different touch points in my life, the different guides, whether it was a teacher, whether it was another educator or a faculty or staff. But those people all play such an instrumental part in providing exposure, number one, and providing confidence and evoking this sense of empowerment in my journey. And then the last piece, some of them even provided like the technical development skills. I had one woman, she actually passed away from cancer a few years ago, but she was like my saving grace while I was in college. She taught me the fundamentals of electrical engineering. And I'm an electrical engineer. So she taught me and said, don't let this be the thing that stops you. I'm going to teach you what, this equation means, how this function works. We're going to get through that. And that was so powerful. And for me, I think that teachers and educators as a whole have such an influential role. And absolutely. I think it's also difficult because the impact of their role is often not seen for years, Right. And so I think it's just understanding that if you are a teacher or educator in that pathway of a student, you can provide that impact. And just because you don't see it, tomorrow, the day after that, doesn't mean that you didn't plant a seed or you didn't water a seed that was dormant inside of them.
Right. That's good stuff. So I just want to read a few of the comments that we have here on the screen. And basically, someone said, this is my brother, Josh. He said, no doubt you're the best. And he also said this subject is needed. And Kim said, listen, God had a plan, I guess, when you were talking about your life. And Sherry said, LinkedIn helps with network. Good stuff. Kim said, LinkedIn is a part of a platform that makes connections. Absolutely. And she also stated that teachers are the power of all of our journeys. They play an instrumental role in shaping us to become greater. They see our gifts first at times. That's true. And she also said, absolutely, teachers make the impact. They water the seed. That's good stuff. Good stuff. So, I mean, I can definitely relate that teachers are very influential. There were some very influential teachers in my life as well throughout my, upbringing, throughout my career. But we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about Markell. So I'm excited. And we also have Brianna. She is on and she says, thank you. That was encouragement for me as a teacher. I encourage my students daily to begin thinking about their future and different skill sets. That's good stuff. So Markell, what about individuals? What about if there's like children listening or parents who are listening and their children may or may not have an interest in engineering? What would you tell them? What is the initial, I will say, step in maybe pursuing an interest? What are some avenues to get to where you currently are? I know there's many factors, but if you can just hit on some of the most important ones.
Yeah. So I think that first I'll clear up what I realize is a common misconception about engineers, which is that engineers all you have to be good at math, you have to be good at physics, and you have to love science in order to be an engineer. And that helps, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's an imperative. And so I think that when people think of engineers, I think they think that number one. And then number two, I think they also think engineers are only software nowadays, right? There's so much software engineering going on. If that means if I don't know how to code, then I can't be an engineer. The way that I best explain it and I best think about it is engineering is really everything around us. So anything that you can put your hands on, anything that you use, anything that enables your livelihood in any way, shape, or form, from food to medicine to just the products and the consumer electronics we use, engineers were involved in some way, shape, or form. So in the food industry, they may be involved like John Deere. They make the equipment, you make the sensors that determine how to actually produce crops and measure crops. Within the medical field is how do you measure these things? How are you extracting these results? How are you building and testing and validating medical equipment that actually has to be deployed? How do you actually store COVID-19 vaccine at this temperature? You have to create that fridge and then make that fridge portable. So it's all of these different things. And then consumer electronics, the easiest example is like your phone. And I think what's so cool about a phone is it has so many interdisciplinary engineering roles within it. You have cameras, you have microphones, you have the glass, you have the metals, and you also have like this form, and you also have this function. So I talked about the function, but there's also this form piece, right? So it's how do you make it aesthetically pleasing? How do you make the curvature on it comfortable? And what does comfort actually mean? How do you quantify comfort? And so engineers get to do all of those different things and work on all these different types of products and services that we use every day. And so I would say there's a lot of ways that someone can go about exploring it. One thing that I just got my nephew actually, and he's 7 going on 8, is this really cool product called KiwiCo, KiwiCo. And it's essentially this like, it's kind of like an arts and crafts kit, but it's designed to help provide exposure for students and kids in STEM. And what I love about it is they break it down for different age groups. You have 5 to 7, 6 to 8, 9 to like 12, and then 13 to 17. And so it's really how do you segment and provide exposure at different stages where you can apply your knowledge. You can build a robot or you can build something and then you can take it apart and understanding the steps associated with it. And another thing I love about it, I listened to a cool podcast actually with the CEO of it. And she said that when they create these different projects, they're using engineers to help when they design it. So like an actual mechanical engineer designed this thing that a kid can now build at home. Wow. So it's not just like it's basically like a enhanced version of Legos, because the Legos, very kind of one-dimensional. You can kind of just build something with those shapes, but this is this is kind of that next level up of how do I build something that I can actually use around the house, right? So it may
So
be a
Markell,
tool. Yeah.
quick question. So
Mhm.
you mean to tell me Legos was part of engineering for some of us when we came up back in the 80s and 90s and 70s? I'm being sarcastic because you
No,
mentioned
I use Legos.
Legos, but I mean, hey.
Yeah, no, I think Legos are great. And I think that is so cool because Legos are great. But what's interesting is a lot of times when I talk to friends, we all have our Lego stories, but the way we thought about Legos all kind of lends to what type of engineering we actually end up pursuing.
Okay.
But a lot of people who I from my network that actually use Legos, when they're building something, they're thinking about it from a mechanical standpoint, right?
Okay.
So, because Legos are a mechanical piece, but then I'm thinking about Legos just being like a supplementary piece, maybe for a piece of electronics. Like it's not the highlighting feature for me. I don't care, that I'm
Mhm.
building this really cool bridge. No, the bridge is only there to provide access or to enable something else. So
Okay.
I think Legos is really, again, more defined for mechanical. So KiwiCo would be the first thing I would recommend. The
Okay.
second thing I would recommend, which is a little bit more hands-on, is called an Arduino, Arduino. And so an Arduino is essentially a plug-in computer where you can program and learn really basic things about electrical engineering and computer science. So you can
Okay.
get something like a button and you press a button, and then depending on how you program it, you can make it turn on a light or turn off a light. So you can get to
Wow.
see what that interface looks like.
Okay.
And the next level up from that is called a Raspberry Pi. And so a Raspberry Pi
Hmm.
is actually a $35 computer. And I actually highly recommend this one because it's a very it's a lot more capable, and it's
Okay.
probably like the size, probably about the footprint of an iPhone, and maybe a little bit taller. But it's
Okay.
a complete computer that can fit in the palm of your hand, and you're
Okay.
able to program it and connect different sensors and learn again electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and computer science all through this platform. And
Wow.
then one cool project that I've seen people do is like you can create like a smart mirror is what they call it. So you put a TV or a display behind it, and so you
Hmm.
can make it so that when you touch the display, your Raspberry Pi is programmed to detect the touches, and then it can like trigger different events. So another really cool thing, a lot more
Okay.
involved, but once you get to Raspberry Pi, you'll probably be a little bit older. But at that point, you're like ready to go at any company.
Okay.
You understand how hardware works, you understand how software works, and you know how to
Okay.
create something. So
Okay.
those would be like the big, I guess, avenues to explore.
Gotcha.
And then
So,
the last thing
mhm,
I'll say is actually YouTube.
sure.
I think YouTube, if you're watching people break and build things, it can be really, really entertaining. And you just have to find what you like to see being broken or built. I think
Gotcha.
that's the key. Because again,
Gotcha.
I don't even know where to begin. It's just so many things that you can build. One thing that I love is
Hmm.
sound. And so I
Okay.
love watching anything and learning about anything related to microphones
Hmm.
and speakers. And fun fact, a speaker and a microphone are really the same thing, it's just reverse, right? And
Wow.
so yeah, right, because a microphone is picking up the vibrations, but then a speaker is just like propagating the vibrations, but they're pretty much designed the same way. And so it's really interesting like to see the parallels. And I love sensors because they serve as like the interface between the physical domain and like the
Hmm.
electrical domain. And it's like, how do
Okay.
I take a physical event and
Okay.
translate it electrically? And
Okay.
so again, you just have to find what you think is cool and just
Hmm.
go down that rabbit hole.
Okay. Well, I'm so glad that you really clarified that Raspberry Pi because I love to eat, but it was on the engineering side. So I'm glad you brought clarification to that. But I do have a few comments. Let's get them up
Mhm.
here. My sister said, your mom and Auntie Linda are watching. Hey, mom and Auntie. My husband is watching. Good stuff. And Brianna said, is this how you spell that?
Yes, that
Okay.
is.
Okay. All right. And Jay said that's an awesome analogy. And I think that was when you were talking about the Lego. If not, he'll inbox me and tell me I had it wrong. But I think that's what he was talking about. And he said, can you spell those again? So, Jay, this is the Kieko. Is that how you pronounce it?
KiwiCo.
KiwiCo. See, KiwiCo. That's how you spell it, Jay. And the other one was the start with an A.
Arduino.
Arduino. Can you spell that for him?
Yeah, ARDUINO.
Okay. All right. Got it.
And then Raspberry Pi.
And the Raspberry Pi. Jay loves to eat, so he should know how to spell Raspberry Pi. He's like me.
It's actually Pi without the E. So it's just PI.
Okay, PI. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, see, see, I put the PIE. See, when you love to eat, you add the PI and you add the E. All right. And Jay also said he needs to offer a pouring course. Absolutely. He has his platform, so he's pouring right now. But I totally agree. You have so much knowledge. Have you wrote a book yet, Markell?
No, I have not. I have not.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm pouring into you that you're going to write a book for the people.
Okay.
So I'm excited when that comes out. All right. Yeah. And my sister said, because you're greedy. All right. Thank you, sister, for letting the world know that I am greedy. Yes, I love to eat. Thank you very much. I'm taking your comment off the screen now. And Jay said, got it. He got it. So he was able to write that information down because he has 2 young girls and we never know where their interest is in regards to the field of engineering. And I'm so glad you brought that up because a lot of times when people hear that term engineering, they always associate it to IT and not the other factors that you conveyed to us on the screen tonight. So that's some good stuff. All right. Yeah. So I do have another question for you. What did you do at Tesla? I know everybody saw that was like in your description when I shared your flyer, Tesla. So what did you do at Tesla?
Yeah, that is a very long-winded. I'm like preparing myself because I did a lot.
Okay. All right.
So when I started in 2014, my first project was actually a integration exercise for a supplier system, which sounds like a lot of nothing to most people. But basically, again, I like to use Lego blocks as a proxy for understanding. There was a custom designed Lego block that I had to integrate in the car. And I had to make sure that it fit. And I make sure that the electrical parts could connect and that when it was plugged in, I had to make sure that it actually functioned. And so I had a supplier essentially make that Lego block, which was a occupant sensor. And it was a really interesting exercise because I never understood like how to work with suppliers and what a supplier even was. But a supplier is essentially like that third party person that you kind of outsource, some type of engineering development or production efforts to. And so I worked with a supplier, and what was cool about it, I supported passive safety, which is like your crash sensors. And so it's like the entire crash event. So you get in a car accident, there's sensors on the outside of the car, or really on the perimeter of the car, I should say, that detect the crash event. And then depending on the magnitude of what those sensors read, it'll deploy airbags. But part of that deployment strategy, it needs to understand where people are and how big people are. And so I made the sensors that would determine what was happening in the car at the time of the event of a crash. And so I was designing these occupant sensors, and it was done off the shelf, meaning from a supplier. And I did that for Model S and Model X. And I was a foolish kid. And I said, you know what? I told my management, I think I can do this myself. I can just make this, but better. And we can do that for Model 3. And so I created a very crude prototype and actually got it approved by Elon. So I had meetings with my manager, my manager's manager, VPs, the directors, all the way to Elon. I was like, hey, I want to put this in a car. And then I explained it to him. I explained how it worked. And he was like, okay. Like, I'm not trying to like hype up the interaction.
No,
that's pretty much what he said.
Yeah.
Like that's as much excitement that I got from him, which was actually a lot. And so I spent the next year trying to figure out how to mass produce this thing, right? Because I made a prototype, meaning this part that I made was really just like a one-off. I had to like cut everything myself. It was very crude in how it was designed. Now I have to figure out, how do I make 500,000 in a year? And so that's like the
Wow.
real effort. And so I led the design of the mechanical and electrical aspects, and then I also led within the testing. So basically, I would make a slightly better version of it, and then I'll have to test it and see how well it performed, and then keep doing that and slowly build it so it was a very robust sensor
Hmm.
system by the end of it. And
Okay.
it wasn't sunshine and rainbows. A lot of things broke a lot of times, but the goal as an engineer is to find problems and create solutions, not to
Mm.
create problems
Okay.
and not find the solutions. And so we ended up producing that, and it went into Model 3. And then part of the process there, which I'm really, really grateful for, was I applied for a patent around 2017 for what I was doing.
Hmm.
And actually mid last year, that patent was granted and awarded, meaning that, when people say patent pending, it's because, they're evaluating the legitimacy of the patent and if it
Right.
infringes on any other creative works. So they assessed my patent, and then I got it approved earlier, about 8 months ago. So yeah.
Wow, that is phenomenal. Wow, wow, wow. So I have to tell everyone who is listening how Markell and I met, but let me read this comment here. Well, Jay was laughing about me with the food. And Markell, you see what he said, right? She'll take out a whole table. He's special. And Kim said, knowledge is powerful. Keep pouring and sharing. And that's exactly what you're doing, Markell. So again, thank you so much. And she
Mhm.
also said, see, that's a whole lot, which means you is smart. Be smart. Okay. Oh, that's too cute. But Markell, I mean, it's just awesome how we connected. And you mentioned about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is how Tesla found you.
Correct.
LinkedIn is how I found Markell. Why? Because I follow Tesla on LinkedIn, and I saw a logo that was on LinkedIn that intrigued me. And I was like, let me click on this link. And I saw, I think you made a statement was like, wow, I'm so excited. I'm paraphrasing it to see that Tesla is featuring this logo. Can you show the audience the logo that I'm referencing? He's
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
show you guys.
I have a shirt that is of the logo, that has the logo on it, but this is a very kind of crude
Black
way.
at Tesla. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how we connected. I saw that logo and
Hmm.
I clicked, and I saw someone else comment and say, thank you so much for creating this. And I'm like, I want to find out a little bit more about this guy. So I clicked on his LinkedIn page and I said, I'm going to shoot him over a connection. And we connected. And then in my head, then Markell, I said in my head, see, our work, I think the way we think comes into manifestation. So I was thinking when I saw that you created the logo, I said, wow, it'd be awesome if I could possibly reach out to him and collaborate. So 2 days later, I will never forget, I was dropping my mom off at her house and I picked up my phone and I said, well, let me look on LinkedIn. And then I saw your call basically to extend opportunity, say, look, I'm looking to connect with colleges. I'm looking to get more people of color, children of color throughout the engineering space. And I said to myself, oh my goodness, this is my time to shoot my shot professionally, okay? Professionally. So I said, I'm going to send him a message. And then we connected, we talked, and he said, absolutely. I said, here's my website because I'm all about, even though you may get a connection or an invite, you still got to research a person because you just can't have everybody on your platform. So I said, well, Markell, we really don't, I'm saying in my head, he really doesn't know me. I really don't know him, but here's my website. Go do your research. And he researched, he looked at my website and he came back with some great feedback. And look at us now. I mean, you're pouring in this capacity, just sharing. your love for engineering, sharing your love for, what you do. And not only that, but you're at the stage where you're ready, not saying that you wasn't ready, but you want to get more people of color into that engineering space, and you've actually created a platform for that. So I think that's awesome. I think that is awesome. And I'm so excited. So let me see what else comments I have on here. Some people said this is a great shirt. Now, what if they want to get that shirt? How would they go about getting it?
Currently, I have not checked the website, but I
Okay.
don't think it's currently available on the website. But right
Okay.
now, before I left Tesla, it was a employee exclusive shirt,
Okay.
meaning
Gotcha.
that like only employees could order it and everything.
Okay.
But I'll push for it. I'll send a message to people internally, because I know that externally people will probably love that shirt as well. So and
Okay.
I'm super excited because we have a black version of the shirt as well, and I think the
Okay.
black looks really, really nice. So I'll relay
Okay.
the message that people on the outside are interested in the shirt.
Okay, good stuff. And we got another comment. Brianna said, love it. And my sister said, this man is smart. He sure is. And my mother does not have a Facebook page, but she's watching with my sister. And she said, Mama said, wow. And I can hear my mama now saying, wow, wow, wow. So we talked about engineering. We talked about what you did at Tesla. Oh, here's this question I'm going to have to ask you. Did you want to say something else? I saw.
I did.
So
I
go
did.
ahead,
I did.
speak, speak.
I just want to comment on
Sure.
first just like this platform, and I think it's incredible. So here's my perspective of that same story.
Okay.
I posted something on my LinkedIn profile saying, hey, I'm looking to collaborate with anyone and everyone who's about it.
Right.
You'll know who you are. and
Yeah.
and then the other thing, I just happened to see a few days later that Tesla created a post about the Black at Tesla celebrating Black History Month. So what's interesting to me was, I did that comment on that post after I did the actual post saying I'm looking to collaborate with people. But it's cool because it's one of those
Wow.
things about the internet where you put yourself out there. It's not just like in this moment, and that moment is fleeting per se, but it was,
Mm-hmm.
I put myself out there, and it was really a seed that was planted on the internet where it could be
Mm-hmm.
realized today, it could be realized tomorrow. And I didn't get as much traction as I was hoping for. And I was like, I guess people didn't see it, but
Mm-hmm.
it somehow graced your timeline and you discovered it, and it's just like,
Yes.
that's so awesome. And then
Yes.
when you reached out to me, it was an instant, oh yeah, this is absolutely, because you could tell both by the candor of from your message, but also just like the language that you use in your brand and on your site, it aligns with the values that I believe in too, which is pouring into others. Is how do we enable, how do we empower, how do we use what we have and give that and pay it forward. So just the language you use, the enthusiasm, and just the true action that you're taking, it made it just, it was just like an obvious, like, why wouldn't we collaborate? I'm
Wow.
so grateful that we're here, and I just want to commend you for creating this space that empowers, that enables, and provides exposure. So I think this is just awesome, and I'm so grateful to be here.
Well, I'm so excited that you said yes. I am. I am. And, I think that is very important that we use our talents, we use our skills, we use our knowledge, we use our experience, and whatever I should say, any additional attributes that we possess, we should use it to empower others. And as you went to my website, my proverbial mantra stands as, you were born for a purpose. That purpose is to pour into the lives of others. And since then, I've added something else to that, is what are you pouring? So that's
Mm.
very important. I think that's a self-reflective question. What are you pouring? And anyone who's listening to Markell and listening to me today, this evening, and will probably watch the replay, think about that. What are you pouring? How are you using your skills? How are you using your talents and your abilities to impact the lives of others? That's very, very key. And that's how we transform our community. That's how we transform society, by pouring and using our skills to uplift, empower, inspire motivate. So I think just having you on this platform is going to encourage so many people. And you're gonna, I mean, I'm gonna put it on YouTube. I'm gonna put it on YouTube. So it'll be on YouTube. I'm gonna share it and I'll keep sharing it because people need to hear your story. People need to be empowered. Our young Black males, they need to know, hey, here's someone here that is a staff engineer. You can be an engineer too. Other minorities, you can be an engineer too. And we're not excluding any race, but those individuals sometimes feel like, hey, I don't see anybody like me, so therefore I cannot pursue that particular career field. But y'all look, you can see in the camera right here. He's sitting right here. And where are you at? You're currently in Oakland, California. Is that
yes,
correct?
I'm in Oakland.
Oakland,
Correct.
California. So West Coast, East Coast, meet up. And look, you got a pure powerhouse right here. We're pouring here. So let me read some more comments because I got a lot going on. I'm going to get to my last question. Okay, my sister said, Auntie said she can't mess with you, Lenora. Dawson laughed a laugh out loud. All right, Auntie Linda, that's my auntie. She can cook too. If you ever come down south, come to the East Coast, come to North Carolina, hit me up.
Okay.
I'll make sure you get some real Southern food because I know they ain't got it out there in the West Coast.
Nope.
They ain't got it. They don't have it. Nope. The bacon and everything is different. We got slaughterhouse. You probably don't eat pork, but anywho, we got real stuff. I know you don't. Most people on that side don't, but you eat chicken or you vegan?
My girlfriend is vegan, and I am vegan 5 days out of the week. So
okay, so you pescatarian?
Just catch me on like a Saturday.
Okay,
I'm not
so
vegan.
what you eat on a Saturday? You eat chicken?
I'll eat chicken
shrimp?
Or fish. Yeah,
Fish, okay.
I like shrimp too. Yeah.
Okay.
Seafood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Seafood. So if y'all ever invite Markell to the South, he's not eating your pork. Okay. But he'll eat. he'll eat a little bit of chicken and some shrimp. Okay. So let's keep going here. Auntie says she's proud of you. Tara is watching. Thank you, Tara. Tara says good evening. Sherry said buy a Tesla. Laugh out loud. Karen says she's enjoying Lenora Pours. Thank you so much, Karen, for joining in. My sister has a way of connecting with people. I do, Sherry. I do. It's a God-given gift, and I'm grateful. All right. Kara is watching. Very interesting session. This is great. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for encouraging my sister. That's what she's telling you, Markell. Thank you. And I do appreciate that. And Jay is saying, my sister, he's proud of me too. That's one of my big brothers from another mother. And she said, he said, use it. My sister said, mine. I don't know what mine is. And Jay said, what are you pouring? Absolutely. What are you pouring? And we got more comments. Absolutely. Sherry, I am sharing it too. And that will be 5-9. Markell, you see what she's saying? Trying to get people to pay her on my show. She need to stop. And then she says, preach. Kim is my sister from another mother. She said, this is an entire coalition of showing us the how to. Keep using it to bridge the gap and provide the recipe to just do it. Good stuff. And that's what you're doing. And my sister said, no pork on his fork and no swine on his mind. Yes, sister, none of that. We got it right here. And Roger said he's trading his Genesis for a Tesla. All right. Kim said, proud of you for stepping out of the box. Thank you. And my friend, see, she said friend here because as you stated earlier, sometimes we try to maintain that professionalism. But when we're in each other inbox, you know how we say friend? We say Fran, Frann. So I know we're almost finished, but I do want to say something that you stated earlier. You said engineers find problems and create solutions. Or yes. I want to put my own little spin on it. If they see a problem, they create a solution.
Yes.
So I will say to everyone who's watching, if you have a positive mindset, you are an engineer. If you see a problem, create a solution to the problem. Use your skill to help solve the problems. We can't solve them all. But again, as I stated earlier, we can use our skills, abilities. We can use our talent, we can use our knowledge and experience to pour. My last question for you, Markell. What was your most memorable moment of 2020?
Yeah. So that is probably the hardest question. I wrote down a couple of things and thought about it since we talked about it slightly earlier. But there's a couple of things that I thought was cool. Number one, moving to Oakland. I've always wanted to live in Oakland. I was living in like the South Bay of like Silicon Valley area for
Mm-hmm.
the last like 6 years. And to finally get to Oakland, I thought was like a big accomplishment because I've always wanted to live here. Another, highlight was doing a speaking event at Purdue. They flew me out a week before the pandemic started, which was really
Wow.
crazy. But I flew out a week before and got to speak to a couple hundred engineering students at Purdue, imparting some knowledge and like a fireside chat. And after the event, there was like 20, 30 students waiting to talk to me, ask me more questions, which was really more of a metric to say like they really resonated with what I was saying and they felt
Okay.
comfortable to talk with me. So that was a huge highlight. But I
Okay.
think the biggest one, which is just like a blessing in and of itself, is I stepped away from working in the midst of all of this calamity, and I was
Mm.
okay. You
Wow.
know, I took a sabbatical last year. So second half of 2020, I did not work. And I just reflected, I wrote, and I tried to figure out how can I, in your terms, pour into people. And so,
Mm.
yeah, I spent 6 months just trying to figure that out. And it was tough, because it was just like, it's one of those things you don't know if you're capable and, you
Right.
second guess. But yeah, I was so grateful, and I'm still grateful because I'm still doing it. I'm even further now. But I basically stepped away from Tesla in the end of June and said, "Hey, I want to go do my own thing."
Mm.
And that was such a huge blessing to get your dream job. Like that's the perspective. It's like I got my dream job, and I got
Right.
to do that for 6 years, and then I said, "I'm going to go do another dream."
Wow.
How crazy is that to be able to do one dream and then say, that was fun. I want to go do another one. And I just think that is just really a huge point of gratitude and a huge highlight. And obviously my dream is to create and help empower other dreams. But it's just like so crazy, I think, to kind of go full circle of like, I
Mm.
couldn't fathom 10 years ago when I was 19, I could not fathom working at Tesla, living in California, not working, right? Like
Mm.
all of those things. And
Right.
now, 10 years later, I'm like, I did all of those things and more. And now it's like, okay, so clearly, if I can dream it, I can be it. And if I can see it, I can be it. And
Right.
so it's just so humbling and so encouraging to be able to be in this position that I'm in now and really just kind of rooted in the hard work from both the guides in my life, from the educators,
Mm.
and then also, I did a little bit of work. I studied, so I give myself
Okay.
a little bit of credit.
Right. Right.
And yeah, just a lot of blessings that led up to this point. And so I'm just grateful for having been able to step away from Tesla, last year.
That's huge. That's
Yeah.
huge. To step away from your dream job to follow your dream and to even make a more of a global impact. And when I say global, I'm sure you are going to make a global impact, Markell.
Thank you.
And this is just one of the footprints or imprints that you did here tonight on my platform. And you are the first guest on this official Lenora Poor's show. So
Nice.
I'm like excited. And I want to say something. A couple of weeks ago, I was doing a task, and my god sister, who's a photographer, she was doing some pictures for my sister and her husband. And she said, "Where are you at?" I said, "Well, I just had to assist a client." And she said, "Well, are you coming to the shoot or not? I said, I'm not ready. I'm just not prepared. I don't have everything. She said, just get here. She said, just get here. And I just showed up. And when I showed up, they told me to pose this way, pose this way, pose this way. She took a couple pictures. And afterwards, she said, now, what are you going to do with these pictures? I said, something is going to evolve around these pictures. And I reached out to my god brother, and basically which is Jay, he updated some things for me. And lo and behold, that same picture was on that flyer. Yeah. So sometimes we just got to show up. We don't know how things are going to unfold. We don't know how things are going to happen. But if we just show up, we keep our faith, trust God, everything else will happen. And I'm telling you, you are definitely going to make a global impact. Trust me. And I hope that we maintain our collaboration, and this will not be like a one-time thing, but we will keep in contact. But I do have a few more comments, and then we're going to have our final remarks, and we're going to close out. Sherry said, make your dream a reality. Kim said, there are some who only imagine to dream one thing happening, and your testimony is fueling us all to dream it, believe it, and do it. Thank you for your yes. Wow, that's to you, Markell. That's awesome. And Sherry just says, say it, Kim, absolutely. And Brianna said, just do it. That's what she told me. That's the photographer. She said, just come down here and just do it. And I'll tell her story later when I bring her on the show. We're not going to get to her story yet. And my sister said, yes, Bougie Bree Photography, she does travel. So they're saying if you want her to come to Oakland and do you some shots, she'll come over there. Okay. Yeah. Take some of your pictures. Hey, it's all about collaborating, right, Markell?
Yeah. I'm gonna write that down.
Okay. All right. Bougie Bree Photography.
Noted.
And she's a teacher by day, so she's the one that made those teacher comments earlier. Yeah. And Roderick, who's my brother-in-law, he said, whatever we believe, we can achieve. All right. So thank you guys so much for joining us. And I'm telling you, this was amazing. This was amazing. And Markell, I want you to end the show with some final words of inspiration.
Yeah. So when I do speaking events, or when I try to do a talk, I always like to leave with something actionable. I think that, it's really cool to feel good. But it's another thing to use that potential energy and translate it into something tangible. And so I love to do what I call a challenge for people at the end of any type of, even if it's a conversation with one-on-one with a friend, I always end with some type of challenge. If I can't figure out a challenge, then I didn't do a good job in trying to understand something from the conversation. So I have a few challenges for people, for everyone on the call. Number one, as it relates to engineering and as it relates to kids, if you are a parent, leverage the technology. Whether it's KiwiCo, Raspberry Pi, or Arduinos, or maybe just starting off with some cool YouTube videos to build exposure. Create the exposure for the child, for your child, maybe not even your child, maybe if you're a teacher, your students. Because I think it is, a disservice if you do not provide the exposure, and at the same time, you don't know beforehand if they would actually be receptive in the first place. So you just have to create the exposure. So that's my challenge for parents and for educators. My challenge for really all of us is take a baby step. I think that sometimes I get in my own way too much. And it's both imposter syndrome, it's the fear of failure, and it's all of these little things, or all of these seemingly big things. But then I realized, like Brianna says, is just to do it. And I tell students that I work with, when they're trying to present their resume or trying to prepare for their job interviews, I always say, do not come to me when you think you're 100% ready, because you will never be 100% ready. come to me now and we'll get you closer to 100% quicker than you trying to do it alone. So don't do it alone, because there is no such thing as a self-made anything.
It's
And
not.
that's such a common, misconception, but you can't do it alone.
Right.
So take a step and ask for help. And yeah, I think with those two things and just the baby steps every single day, you'll get further in a year than taking baby steps than if you don't move at all. So
Love that. Love
yeah,
that. Thank you so much. And I thought that was going to end it, but I have a few more comments here, and
sure.
then this is going to be it. And guys, we'll get him back. I promise you, we will. We definitely will. So, my sister said Roderick T. Williams does stocks. That's her husband. He has a group called Trading with Rod. And he also said, ask him if he knows people Roger T. Williams can collaborate. That would be great. Hit him up on LinkedIn, Roderick. Make sure you connect
Hmm.
with Markell on LinkedIn and you guys can talk there. And Brianna says she accepts the challenge, Markell. And Mabel said, dreams do come true. Keep the faith. And Roger T. Williams is an alpha. Are you Greek?
Yes, I
That's
am.
my brother-in-law. So he must did some quick research real quick. Well, I'm Greek too, but I am a Zeta.
Okay.
But hey, we still part of that Greekdom. So
Yep.
hey, we still all one big family. And Brianna said, yes, great point. So again, Markell, thank you so much. And that's going to conclude our show. And I'm going to end the broadcast, but I want you to stay there, okay? All right. Take care, everyone.